Um, Hello, everyone. My name's Kate. I'm a member of Code for Chapel Hill. And so my goal today is to speak for just a few minutes and to use that time to start a conversation among those of us who are interested in maps and have participated in mapping projects. So maybe M, since you're right below me, I nominate you to be the person who yells at me if I go on after 5 minutes, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So thank you. So here we go. So today I just want to talk about making maps for people. And I've said in a presentation before, people like maps. Maps are a kind of data, a type of information that people like. People really like maps, and brigades like maps. Mapping projects are something that we find ourselves doing quite frequently. And it's something that new brigade members, I think, are often drawn to as well. But I'm going to expand on that point. And today I'm going to say it's not just people and brigades. NGOs like maps, municipalities like maps, government agencies like maps. Lots and lots of people like maps, and there are lots of people out there that are making maps. And during COVID, we like maps, right? If we're thinking about anything from case rates to where to find a free meal, COVID, the medical crisis and the economic crisis have both brought us lots of new maps. Here's just a screen grab of some of the COVID-19 response food mapping projects that you can find up on Discourse. So you can see that even in the past couple of months, the brigades have initiated quite a number of new mapping projects. We're pretty good at making maps, but do we make good maps? That's not one and the same. What is a good map? Well, a good map, right? A good map should be easy to make, right? Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that a criteria for being a good map is a map that's easy to make. But I do know that a good map is a map that's easy to use. Right, and so COVID-19 again brought us lots of maps, and some of them were easy to make, but not all of them are easy to use. That we know for sure. And as always, as somebody with a child and a smartphone, you're constantly reminded that right, that tech is not easy to make, but good tech is always really easy to use. So ease of use is a hallmark of any tech that we're creating that we can call good tech. And when we think about maps, and if you think about, well, am I making good maps? Am I making good maps for people? There are some ways you can do a quick gut check. In general, I would argue that maps that focus on showing point locations and maps that are scaled to regions, those are maps that serve people. If you come across a map that has a lot of layers, that has a lot of different shapes and boundaries in addition to just points, and if you come across a map that scales to the state level or the country level, that's probably not a map that serves people, that's probably a map that serves a question. Right, so those maps can still be really valuable for us as individuals and for analysts and policymakers, but that might not be a map that's made for people. And to navigate the social safety net, we need good maps that serve people, not just questions. And so I'm going to argue that a good map is a human-friendly map. And what do I mean by human-friendly? Well, I'd like to pose that these are the 6 criteria that I think make a really human-friendly map. Is your map designed mobile first? Good maps are usually not embedded. Good maps let people easily share individual locations, not just a link to the map tool itself. Good maps let people find how to get to a location by driving, but busing, walking, biking. Good maps are available in numerous languages and not just auto-translated. They allow human-powered translations. And good maps are accessible. And for maps, particularly, that challenge there is working with screen readers. So we can think about maps as just guts plus packaging. And you can think of guts as some of the functionalities like filtering, searching for locations, sharing locations. And you can think about the packaging as the user interface, some of the branding, and some of the other supporting features. So if we think about maps as guts and packaging, I would argue that maybe the guts are things that shouldn't be created from scratch for each project. Maybe the guts are things that we should be sharing, but the packaging probably really should be tailored for each project. So an ideal map has really strong guts and flexible packaging that you can tailor to make it a really client-based mapping project.
We are at about 5 minutes, by the way.
Okay, thank you. I'm almost finished. So I'd argue that the guts are things that we should find existing templates for, share, and reuse. And the packaging is something we should customize to make it a frustration-free experience. So this is really kind of my ending point, is to start a conversation about, do we have the guts to make good maps? Do we currently have examples within Code for America that meet some of these criteria? And my answer right far is maybe, I think so. We have a lot of really good maps, and we have a lot of maps that probably tick off a number of these criteria, but I don't know if we have any map examples that meet all of these criteria. And I'm not sure if some of our best maps are documented to the point where future brigades are likely to find them and reuse those guts and focus on the packaging. So that is where I'm ending. Just as a reminder, there are 2 mapping channels in CFA Slack. There's maps and food mapping. For those of you who are watching this offline, and for those of you that are here, I guess I'll keep the sharing up. Maybe I'll stop sharing. But we should have at least 5 to 7 more minutes. So I'd love to stop there and just hear from y'all what you think about, are those the right criteria for what make a good map? And what have you experienced in that journey to making a map for people?
Problem with designing them mobile first is that there are some people who don't have a mobile phone, or who might have a mobile phone and no data plan, and so I think having it work well on desktop, and importantly being printable, I think is also important.
Yeah, thank you. Heather, was that a comment from you?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes, it was. Do I need to put my mouth closer to my face like this?
No, I was just trying to keep track of who was speaking.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Printability, that's an interesting point. I don't know if that is, I don't know if the mobile first really acts against that as well, but I think that's a very valid point. Let's see, who else? I know there's some of us in this room who are fellow mappers. Is anyone else here that is currently on a mapping project?
It seems like we need to get some of our UX people involved in the design process of our maps that are going out. People that are particularly interested in maps and UX.
Yeah, so we're sort of grappling with the UX of mapping right now in a project I'm working on, the West Oakland Air Quality Project. We're just starting to get into the visualization side of it. And we've been having a lot of conversation with our stakeholder, our partner, nonprofit partner here in West Oakland, around that concept of questions versus people, and who are we serving, and what is the role of the map, and how do we move people. So for us, the project that we're working on, the nature of it is very question oriented. We're actually trying to solicit questions, encourage questions, find ways to use this mapping tool to help visitors, local residents formulate questions for themselves, and then use the map to find the answers to those questions, and then take action, specific actions. In this context, we're talking going from understanding air quality impacts on health outcomes and data literacy, and just how to read a map and how to read a data-driven map, all the way to the spectrum of showing up at your city council meeting to demand a policy change. And so I don't have necessarily like an opinion or answer so much as just like that is something we are mightily struggling with. And this framing of like data points versus layers to me was like just really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, well, in the interest of time, I think we do have to keep moving forward. So if there are any other comments, we can keep the conversation going on the Brigade Congress Slack or even just on this channel. But up next, we have logic models, a shared visual language to show how your program works. And I believe the speakers are Jennifer Miller and Gregory Johnson. Take it away.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Good. Okay, so I have shared the slides, I'll link to them in the chat. And the way we've got the timing on this one, it's probably going to be about 8 minutes of presenting by me, and then about 2 minutes of sharing a Code for America specific example by my co-presenter, Gregory Johnson. And so we may need to take a slightly higher percentage of the questions in chat for this presentation. My background is in teaching public policy and public management, and logic models were one of my favorite things to teach in that subject area. So I'm really excited to be here and to share a little bit more about logic models to you. And I'd like to do this in light of a couple of things that I've already heard are big priorities for brigades. So I'll start by laying some of the groundwork, teaching you how to define what is a logic model and describe the parts of a logic model. But then really two priorities that I hear is how do you use a logic model for stakeholder engagement, and how do you use a logic model for fundraising? Logic models can be tremendously valuable tools in making your case to granting organizations because it's speaking their visual language. It's a way to speak their visual language because they need to compare multiple worthy projects and to make tough decisions about what to fund. And speaking this consistent visual language can be very helpful for that. So let's talk about lay the groundwork for some of the very basics of logic models. A logic model is a way to describe how a program works. And here we're using the term program in a very specific way. You might say, is this jargon? Isn't jargon bad? Well, in this context, some of these terms we use in a very specific way to describe everyday activities very precisely, because our audience is used to making very fine distinctions among things that otherwise sometimes get all jumbled together. So here what we mean by a program is systematic efforts to achieve specific objectives for improving health, education, and well-being. So what are some Code for America examples of programs? Definitely Clear My Record, Get CalFresh. These are some examples of programs that we're used to thinking of in a Code for America context. And to make this session a little more interactive, I would love to see folks share in the chat some examples of programs of this type of program that you're familiar with, whether through your brigade or even programs of your state government, of the US federal government. Think about some programs of these types. These programs, they're a systematic way to improve health, education, and well-being. And we have ideas about how they achieve those results. A theory of change is a very abstract thing that describes how and why a desired change is expected to happen in a particular context. So a theory is an abstraction. It could exist as a mental model. It could exist as a narrative. But when it takes a systematic visual form, we call it a logic model. So I offer you this definition of a logic model: a systematic and visual way to present and share your understanding of the relationships among the resources you have to operate your program, the activities you plan, and the changes or results you hope to achieve. So the nouns you have, the verbs you plan to do, and then the outcomes, how you plan to make a difference. Okay. So with that, what would this visual representation look like? You've seen many flowcharts. I know there are a lot of IT computer folks here who say, is this just another flowchart? In a way, yes, but it's a very specific type of flowchart. Again, that speaks the visual language of people who make a lot of decisions about allocating resources. So if you can describe your program in the form of this type of a flowchart, it's something that a grant officer at a government granting agency or a foundation can easily absorb. Start with the resources you need to carry out the program. Assuming they give you the green light, what do you need? Yes, money, but how much? What human resources, what physical resources, what software resources, what do you need to carry out the program? And then what literally will you do? What actions will you take in carrying out the program? The next step, and this is the trickiest one, so if this sounds confusing, this is where most people get confused, is we often measure something called an output, which is our direct evidence of service delivery. This is how we show that the program actually took place. And maybe the most important thing about outputs is that we don't stop here, because outputs aren't inherently valuable themselves. They would be things like attendance, things like visits to a website, but they're not inherently valuable on their own. We move on to then the changes we really want to see, changes in behavior or capabilities resulting from the program or policy. These are the outcomes. This is what your funder or granting agency is going to be most focused on seeing. How does the participant actually change through the program? What are the positive ways that they see changes in behavior or capabilities? Finally, you want to see impact, things that go beyond the individual participants in a program to maybe broader community or societal change. This is not always so feasible to measure for a program, but when you can, it's really compelling in telling the story of your program. Okay, so now I have a slightly humorous example. Quit looking so serious, everyone I can see on the call, because we're going to talk about vampires for a little bit in the spirit of October. This is a humorous example that was developed to teach about logic models, and said, well, what if we want to do a health program to help the vampires of Sunnydale? And it was put together by a group of librarians, so they think about helping people by teaching them to use library resources. What resources do they need? They need internet access and garlic. They need a projector and they need holy water. Okay, who needs to be there and participate? Yes, the staff, but also the vampires. Okay, they plan on hosting some evening training on their databases, and they're going to start something called a 12-hour dusk to dawn health reference hotline. Then they're going to measure their outputs, their measure of reach, outcomes, satisfaction, learning, and then they're going to have impact. Vampires have improved health and ever longer lives, if you can say that about the undead, and stronger bonds with their human communities, reducing intergroup conflict. I hope you enjoyed this humorous, lighthearted example, but I know to really absorb the material, you're also going to want an authentic example from Code for America. So I'm going to bring this example up here and let Gregory Johnson take you through this example from Code for South Florida.
Thanks, Jennifer. So my name is Gregory Johnson. I'm from Code for South Florida. For many that don't know, Code for South Florida is its own 501c3 nonprofit. We're also happy to be partners of Code for America and the National Brigade. And during our time of restructure and my leadership of the group, one of the pressing things for me was making sure we could grab and ask for funding and make sure that organizations knew between the distinction between us and Code for America. We have 7 paid staff today, and this illustration is of when we went to a funder and made an ask to see if we can help for earned income tax credit. And what we did is we found a synergy between Code for America's existing program, Get Your Refund, and the work that we're doing locally. So this is an illustration of how we use logic models to pitch to this funder, as well as how we gave updates to stakeholders about the work that we're doing. So this isn't everything. These are just some brief points that I thought of. But on the resource side, the way we looked at it was there are these things called EITC partners, earned income tax credit partners. These are organizations that offer assistance. And formerly, they offered assistance in person, and now they had to do this virtual. So they were the top resource that we thought about reaching. Another thing we needed was funding, right? I have paid staff, but we need certain people to be assigned to the role. So we put funding here from Citibank, which is our main funder. We also got paid staff from my team to work on this. And we then aligned with government employees. So we worked with the city of Miami, who had a tax program running in person for about 20 or 30 plus years. And then we looked at channel partners, people that can help bring the message of the program that we're doing. If you're unfamiliar with Get Your Refund, it's a service that makes it easier for people to file for taxes. And on the back end, there's partners in the communities that are actually working through and following up with each person so they make sure they have all their information to file for their taxes so they can get their refund. In terms of activities, what we did on the ground floor and recognized that we could do really well compared to the National President's Code for America had was we had all the relationships with the community. So a part of our activity was doing community outreach about the tool, giving them updates on new things that were happening, as well as doing partner training. In Miami, we have a very unique demographic. People speak English, Spanish, Haitian Creole. So being able to facilitate that training through our staff, as well as bring to Code for America feedback they were getting from Get Your Refund is super important to our activities. Doing program management and then doing communications within our communities and making sure everybody was in line as we kind of grew this. In terms of outputs, some of the things that we did was we had a lot of digital resources. So we built websites, we built process flows, we did a lot of internal work with our partners. We also created an earned income tax credit plan. So we worked with these partners to have a future plan. And the outcomes were actually phenomenal. For us, one of the big wins is in 4 months, we were able to get people $1.1 million. And today this is more than that, but we're able to help 400 plus people in our community file for their taxes. Before, each organization would not be able to get to the amount of people that they did through this program. 2, we were able to get 5 organizations that had never done anything virtual in less than 2 weeks, many of which had more than 50 plus employees or staff members that had to get trained. And then in terms of impact, the work that we did at a local level was something that the funder was able to see and say, wow, this is great. We want to bring this to other cities. How can we go and fund this? Oh, let's go to Code for America. So we're one of actually the first brigade studies of a local funder taking this model, going to Code for America, and then funding them to expand the work that Get Your Refund is doing. I can't talk about what CFA has done after that, but we've also seen all the results have been phenomenal. But this just shows how our local models can help facilitate and help push and amplify the message of Code for America. And for us as an organization, after we implementing this logic model, we were able to bring on a grant coordinator to help us at different funding initiatives. So this methodology is really important. And if you're unfamiliar with it, there's actually some write-ups around impact cascades, which are a little bit similar to this, but touch on many of the same points. So that's my case study. Thanks, Jen.
So to land this plane, so to speak, we're now ready to define a logic model, describe its parts, and to use a logic model for stakeholder engagement and fundraising. I want to point you towards some of the resources that I used to prepare my portion of the talk, and also invite, if you would like a longer or more interactive version to talk about this about logic models with your brigade, reach out to me, and I would be happy to talk with you about that. We have about 1 minute, I think, for questions, if there are any in the chat.
We have -1 minute, actually.
Okay. Oops.
So it would be great if folks could chime in the chat. Thank you.
Great. And with that, I believe that the next session would be who works for me, creating a website with a clear picture of who is in your local, state, and federal government and their respective capacities and responsibilities. Brian, you should be all set to go.
Yes.
Great.
Let me see how I share this video here. Or do I need to share it? Can you see me? I don't have anything else to share, really. So I was just going to speak. Basically, I've been having some ideas about ways to get people more interacted in their government at all different levels. And this is really just a kickstart for that. I wanted to talk a little about it. And there's a lot of things that I'm hearing on these lightning talks and during the brigade that really are useful for this. So to start with, I'd like to thank the brigade and Code for America and everyone who's organized this. And it's really been great. And I've enjoyed it. I'm just new to the brigade, so I'm starting at the brigade for Pittsburgh and hopefully going to get some people working on this. The main thing I want to talk about is just a type of map or a website that you can go to find out everyone in your local, in your state, and in your federal government that works for you. The idea came up quite a few years ago when I was wondering how many people actually are in government and work for the government, and you know, that your taxes go to pay their salaries. And I started to try and find, you know, that number, because as far as working Americans, I was always curious, is there a 1-to-1 ratio for the people that are, you know, teaching, that are working in the government, that, you know, are contracting in the government? Because I've had some state and federal government jobs. I've had a lot of different jobs over the years, and I could never really find that number. But from just different times over the years of looking, it seems to be almost 1-to-1. You know, as far as there's the number of private people that are working in the private sector, and then the number of people that are working in the public sector. As far as just like schools, you know, the people in your schools, you know, are working for the government. The people, of course, in your government are working for the government. And so I'm hoping to kind of kickstart a interface, a way to get this data. And I've over the years, I've seen a lot of TED Talks, and there was one in particular that was a Microsoft application that was how to view this type of massive data. And I will have to dig that up. I actually was looking for it and couldn't find it, but and they aren't creating that software anymore, but it is, I think, open source and available. So, you know, the main things I would think, you know, there's a lot of databases out there. And actually that's what started it when I was working for NC State. The News and Observer had access to the database of all the employees and all their salaries in North Carolina. And I was like, wow, this is great information, you know, and what their title was. And so that's the kind of thing I'd like to be able to go to. I think people would, you know, be more engaged in their government if they knew, if, you know, you could click on a map and see who is at your local level, who they report to, the number of people they appoint. I think that's one thing people don't know. I know a lot of people who go to vote don't know much about the people they're voting for, and or what they do, and how their you know, all the resources that they have at their fingertips and stuff. So I just kind of wanted to kick off and see if I could get support for this project of having this type of data available, you know, and, you know, a spreadsheet is always a great way to present data. And so I could see that, you know, when you drill down to it and you open someone up, open a local area, open your state area, open your federal area, a spreadsheet of all the people in your state that are working, and maybe their, you know, their name, of course, and their title and who they report to and who, you know, they manage, who reports to them, the number of people they appoint, you know, their salary, that's all public information. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I mean, there is another project I'm working on, which is Alzheimer's website, forum, wiki, because I'm a member of a Facebook group that has 35,000 people in the dementia group, and there's so much good information out there. And I'm helping with my parents, and I just see so many things that go by in the Facebook group that would be hard to find and would be very valuable for people to know. So I'm working on that too. So those are a couple things, two things really that I'm kind of trying to kickstart. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully be presenting again at the next one with a lot more data and a lot more information. And thanks again for everyone for listening and for your time. And if you have anything in the chat, I would appreciate any help there, because I know there's a lot of this information out there already, and it's just a matter of gathering it, putting it together, and having it in one place. So cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Brian. Does anyone have any questions? I think we do. We may have time for one.
Yeah.
I don't see any.
Thanks, Deanna.
All right. If there are no questions, going once, going twice. All right, we'll move on to our next speaker and final speaker. I'm going to butcher this. I already kind of apologized in advance to them, but the next up we have nurturing Kayaulu.
Good, yeah, nurturing Kayaulu.
Great, driving strategy with brigade members. So Marianne, if you want to go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen. So aloha everybody from Hawaii. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present this morning. So aloha mai kako, my name is Marian Ano, and first of all, I wanna mahalo Code for America for the opportunity to present to you all this afternoon. I want to send a special mahalo to the Code for Hawaii Ohana or family, and to Ben Trevino for your encouragement and dedication to nurturing Kayaulu. So nurturing Kayaulu is a collection of emergent strategies and ideas that have come forth through talking directly with our members and asking them how we can nurture them so that in turn they can continue to nurture our community. I would like to begin by reading this excerpt from the book Kayaulu, Gathering Tides, written by a native Hawaiian scholar and kia'i, or guardian, Mehana Blake Vaughn. The tide is rising ahead of the early morning sun on the northeast coast of the Hawaiian island of Kauai. Waves rush, sinking onto the outer reef where two throw-net fishermen stalk the surge. An elderly woman with her silver hair and a kerchief makes her way toward shore. Two octopuses tucked in her mesh bag. Within hours, 200 tourists will snorkel, sunbathe, and teeter on the coral, few ever knowing that people fish here or that their catch sustains an entire Kayaulu community connected to this stretch of reef. Today, I'm asking you to adopt this definition of community or Kayaulu, a community that is deeply rooted in Aina, the earth, and its people. These relationships inherit the highest levels of civic engagement. the ability to nurture and feed a community that fiercely guards and embraces this relationship to Aina in perpetuity. As a brigade, we seek to build and nurture a Kaiolu through reflecting our broader community, through creating a space that embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion. We seek to implement Indigenous innovation ways of knowing, and we aim to create an open source network that develops and values the passage of knowledge through storytelling. So today, within the context of nurturing Kaiolu, I will talk through some strategies that we hope to employ moving forward for the topics listed here. So we began our journey to nurture Kaiolu through one-on-one interviews with our members. And we have a pretty small brigade, so it wasn't too hard to get a cross-section of viewpoints. Here's what we discovered. Across the board, our members have a deep desire to make change and positively impact the community. So very much shared amongst all of our networks and members. Nurturing Kaiolu at the core aims to create symbiotic relationships between our members and the larger ecosystem, including Code for America, our brigade, and our partners. Here are a few emergent strategies based on what we heard during our one-on-one sessions. So we aim to match projects with our diverse skill sets. So not, as many of you guys know, not everyone is a coder or maybe even has experience in this field. And so we seek to just match projects to all the different skill sets and interests that our members possess. And this enables our brigade to create a more inclusive and inviting experience, and also a more reflection of the diversity of our broader community. We want to track development to tell stories. And let me just kind of define what this means here. We want to build in a practice in the brigade to journal and intentionally create a pathway for project documentation so that we can sort of capture like little bits of stories and then put that all together at the end of a project to create a blog. Rather than like sit down from the very beginning, we want to have a diverse group of voices in telling those stories, just to help us and also help our community to better understand the work that we're doing. And then Aloha in Tech, defining and implementing Indigenous practices. As many of you know, Aloha, or the love and deep empathy we have for others, connects us to the work we do across the networks, across each of our ecosystems. With that said, we are also actively engaged in the discussion around the concept of Aloha in Tech. And actually, this concept of Aloha in Tech was born out of National Day of Civic Hacking, the one that we just recently had, because the group that was doing the design audits, we just felt like there wasn't a sense of Aloha in the way that the websites were created. There wasn't that special signature that sort of defines who we are in Hawaii. And so those are the things that we want to build signatures of Aloha, our collective love and empathy, into each of these user experiences. And now we're having that conversation around what is Indigenous information architecture and what do those user experiences look like, and how are they different from what user experiences look like right now. Our talk stories have revealed that our members have the desire to grow. So we hope to create strategies and pathways for members to lead through project management, partnership building, and a place to grow their own ideas around civic engagement and civic tech. We want to provide this, once COVID is over, and we don't know when that's going to happen, we want to create more field experiences. In one of our brigade member feedback activities, like a lot of people talked about one of the best experiences they had was like a field experience. So we went to a friend's lo'i, or like a taro patch that he had, and everyone really enjoyed that field experience, and also learning more about the host, the partner, what he was working on for his project. And the idea of brigade seasons, so we sort of talked about having a hot and cold calendar where like members can link in times that fit their schedule. So we would give them a year overview, and this is like, these are the hot times. So basically all hands on deck would be great. And these are the cooler months where it's probably going to be focused more on project work. So nurturing Kai'ulu, the strategies we seek to inform our work at Code for Hawaii directly link back to the values of Code for America, which I love referring back to the mission and vision of the website. And the ideas around empathy and building a movement, because I mean that's what we're engaged in, is building movements, and that's really what nurturing Kai'ulu is all about. So strategy is balance, just striking that balance and creating a diverse array of projects just to keep all of our members engaged. Creates an ecosystem with different so that different members can link in at any time and not feel like, oh, I haven't been here for 3 months, where do I link in? So just kind of creating a strategy around how can members link in at any time. We can do that through clear documentation, management, partner agreements, and promoting forward movement. So once an MVP is agreed upon and reached, it's like, then we kind of like open up our ecosystem to a new and diverse idea. Lastly, this actually was one of the most interesting things that have happened over the one-on-one interviews with the members, is really understanding the dividends of our work. So yes, we're all working on these projects, but what are the possible dividends, like, or byproducts of the things that we're already doing? Open source code, obviously is not necessarily a dividend, but we can be more intentional of how we package our open source code, how we're sharing that open source code, who we're working with to sort of disseminate that information or experience with others. The idea of packaging like small parts of our project work and documenting that, and then packaging it as an open source curriculum so that others in the community can use it, others in the network can use it. And just, I would say this is probably helping with just like duplicative efforts. How can we help each other in the work that we're doing? Storytelling in Hawaii, like that's what we do. We talk story. And so that's how people exchange ideas. And that could be a dividend of the work that we're doing. And that helps to nurture, right? That helps to nurture and grow our Kai'ulu, is storytelling. People are captivated. People are inspired by stories that are being told. Giving our members, like, to give technical advice and diagnose if someone comes in with a project, but they're not necessarily going to partner. How can we help them with moving forward with their project if we're not going to work on it? Can we offer them any consulting? Can we just like practice our skills with what kind of different ideas that we could offer them? And really kind of going back to the root of NVPs and the role of having NVPs to help nurture Kai'ulu and sort of preserve that the balance of volunteerism with having discrete timelines is something that we're kind of working with. or working towards. So that's it for nurturing Kaiulu. I mean, there's much more work that is currently happening around this idea, our strategic work that is currently happening. But I want to just send a special mahalo nui to Code for America and Code for Hawaii and all of you guys who are doing amazing work across the networks. And if there's any questions or reflections, we'd really like to hear about what strategies you guys are implementing across the networks to nurture your Kaiolu or community. So I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah, any questions?
Quick question. I was really interested in the journaling throughout a project. I could see reasons why that might be private. It could be a very intimate experience for a community. But do you have any that are public? Like, could I see the journal from a project and see how that kind of flows?
Yeah, I wish I had an example. I don't, these are strategies that we're like gonna try to move forward, but I think what we're gonna work on is creating a template. Like, could we get in touch and I could send you a template when we have that ready. We're not, we've talked about whether that template should be like paper pencil template or digital. And for some reason, like I personally would like to lean towards paper pencil for journaling. But it would be interesting to hear what others think across the network. Thanks for that question.
Yeah, I just posted my email in the chat.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
I just want to comment. Thank you so much, Marian Mahalanui. We're so lucky to have Marian, who has so many talents in addition to being a developer, a software developer, and running a software development company. She's a teacher. She has a small book publishing company. And so I think the ability to work in the printed medium to this point about journaling and paper is all that creativity and generativeness is really paying off in our brigade strategic thinking. So mahalo nui, Marian, you're amazing.
Thanks, Ben. Ditto, right back at you. Thank you. I think.
Yeah, we have about two more minutes. So if anybody has any additional questions, comments, take advantage of that now.
Yes. Yeah, and any other strategies that folks are implementing this idea around nurturing your membership? Like we're really open to hearing those ideas. How do you nurture all these people that do this incredible amount of work?
Hi, I have a question. We're a small brigade in Charlottesville, Virginia, and like everybody else, we're doing everything over Zoom. Because we're a college town, we have a lot of people who are on Zoom for like 8 hours a day every day. How have you changed your strategy when you have to go over Zoom for so much?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, what's been very interesting is there's been more people coming. So that's been actually kind of a highlight, more people coming to our meetups. But I mean, in terms of like a strategy over Zoom, I mean, we've been implementing like breakout rooms, and I know that everyone has been doing breakout rooms. One of the things that I think we're planning to do is bring in a lot more like special guests. And I think that helps with like getting excitement around just getting people excited about coming to these Zoom sessions. Like people that you normally would not interface with is kind of an exciting opportunity. And I think we want to, as long as we're on Zoom, I think we want to continue, nurturing our community by bringing them inspiring and interesting projects and people to talk about. Maybe even playing games, but we haven't tried that yet. But games would probably be a good one.
All right. Well, we are at time. There are a couple of questions on the chat. So if you would like to answer them like via Slack, that would be awesome. So feel free to Slack Marianne and get those questions answered that way. At this time, we're gonna go ahead to our next session. So thank you all for joining us in the Lightning Talks. It was great. Everybody had amazing things to share. I'm looking forward to rewatching some of those on video. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you the next one.